Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Getting Down to Business. I'm Ashley Curtis, Assistant Program Director for the Bishop Center for Ethical Leadership.
And fingers crossed her voice holds up for this entire episode.
Coming back.
It's coming back. I'm so happy. That's been rough. I'm Jill Brown, Academic and Career Advisor with the Movement College of Business.
So now I'm really excited to introduce our two guests today. We have from PwC, Christy Connor and Kristen Blake. Kristen, I'll let you guys introduce yourselves.
Thanks, Ashley. Thanks, Jill. Thank you for having us here. So I'm Christy Connor. I am a senior associate at PwC in the products and technology line of service. I'm on our U.S. technology team, and I'm a staff educator for our technology.
Yes, thank you so much for having us here today. Hi, everyone. My name is Kristen Blake. I am a Human Capital Operations Manager at PwC in our Business Services line of service. I've been at the firm for almost 9 years, and I work under our People Operations umbrella.
Thank you, ladies, for the introduction. We can't wait to get to know you a little bit better, and PwC for our students. We're going to play a little game to kick the show off like we randomly like to do. Right, Ashley?
You want me to do the timer?
Yeah.
All right.
And we warned you, so this was coming. All right.
I'm ready when you
You
are.
have 5 seconds to answer the question as a team. Okay, here we go. Name 3 comedians.
Dane Cook, Kevin Hart, Tom Segura.
Wow.
I love all of the comedians you named. I love it. All right.
Sorry, I just
No. Carried us. Thanks, Kristen.
Kristen's
And
the
thank you. Kristen's awake.
comedian.
I am. Good
All right.
morning, everyone. Okay.
That's all right. Jill
now
I
it's
are
our
just gonna stare
stressful
into space.
Turn. I feel this pressure now.
I know.
Are you guys ready?
Yes.
We're ready.
Okay. Name 3 professional soccer teams.
The Rowdies, Pittsburgh, somebody.
The Arsenal.
Oh, just in time.
Does it count?
Are we going to get Pittsburgh? I didn't give the mascot, but they do have a team.
Should we do another one?
No, honest,
All right.
that's probably good
Jill
enough.
and I are not on our game today.
No, but that's okay. We should.
I should have screened that one before I gave
No,
it to you.
no, it's good.
Hey, we got
This
the
is what
Rowdies.
makes
If
it
you're
fun.
listening, that's all that matters. The Rowdies. Go. Soccer's about to kick in again. Woo! Okay. All right, needless to say, that was a good time. Thanks for playing. Let's get down to business. And would each of you describe your career journey? We were kind of talking about that before the show, of how you got to PwC and, let's see, the growth that you've had within PwC.
Sure. Do you want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So how I got to PwC is quite a bit of a story, interesting story. So I actually graduated from University of South Florida in 2008 with an art history major. And I started out right after school working in an art gallery. And unfortunately, because the economy at the time, this was when the housing market crash was happening, no one was really out in the market buying art. So I was like, you know what? It might be time to change industries. And I started working in sales. And after many years of working in sales, I started working for a staffing company. And one of their clients was PwC. And during this time of them being one of my clients, I really got to know, who they were as a firm, their culture, their goals when it came to, their staffing strategy. And after some time, I was like, I really want to work for this company. So I eventually made the move, applied for a role at the firm, got my foot in the door, and have been there almost 9 years. It'll be this spring. So I just love everything about the culture that we have and, PwC's overall mission. So I really don't foresee myself being anywhere else, at least for the time being.
I love that. Art history.
Art history.
Yes.
Yes.
To now PwC.
PwC.
Executive.
Who would have thought?
Bum, bum. All right. And Christy?
So my journey also started at USF. I double majored in criminology and psychology while I was here. I did the Provost Scholars Program, if anyone's familiar with that.
Nice, yeah.
So I was here for 3 years before I graduated. And during that time, I had an internship with the Florida Department of Corrections. And during that internship, I got to spend some time at the courthouse and absolutely just fell in love with everything legal related, just being in the courtroom, seeing everything at work. And after I graduated, I started to work for a local law firm. I was in there on operations department as a document specialist was my title. So it was up to me to work with the attorneys and the partners to sign all the documents. I was a notary at the time. So during that time, I was there for a year and a half, and I just fell in love with working with all of the executives and just having that proximity to the people who really made a difference in that firm. And I was telling one of my friends about how I loved what I was doing, and she was an executive assistant at PwC at the time. She was like, hey, it sounds a lot like what we do here. I think you would enjoy being at PwC. And she referred me. And so I was able to get an executive assistant job at PwC. I did that for about 3 years, and I told my manager at the time I'm looking for some career moves, and she helped me build some skills in technology and build some skills in training specifically. And lo and behold, I was able to find the perfect career for me as a technology trainer. So it all worked out really beautifully.
I love that.
We did not plan. I didn't realize we had 2 alums on set.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
I love it.
And knowing the backgrounds that you've come from, I just think it's so important for students to always hear this, because it's not necessarily where you start. You always need that first job, but where it might take you. So those majors, don't stress too much about them, okay? Okay. All right. We'll keep it.
100%.
Yeah.
So you've shared with us how you got involved with PwC, but now we're curious, because you both are part of the Women's Inclusion Network at PwC. Can you share with us how you got involved with the Women's Inclusion Network?
Yes. Would you like to start this one?
Sure. So I started at PwC in 2019, and I was first introduced to PwC's inclusion networks around that time, and it just blew me away that such a thing as an inclusion network even existed. And I was so excited to join the Women's Inclusion Network as a member at the time. And then after COVID hit and everything went completely virtual, that was kind of my lifeline to stay connected to other women at the firm, other allies. And around, it must have been 2020 or 2021, there was an opening for another board member. So I raised my hand and I was accepted into our Women's Inclusion Network board. And I've been here ever since. I jumped around from different pillars, from marketing to events. Now with Kristen, I lead our community impact team. So just been a very fun ride.
Which is how we've connected, right?
Yes.
That was through the community. Okay.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So very similar to Christy's story, at PwC, it was probably January 2020, so it was right before COVID. The Women's Inclusion Network had been in the Tampa campus for some time, but it wasn't really active. And it was around January 2020 that a couple of women just kind of breathed new life into the organization. And I remember they were having like an introduction happy hour, and I've always considered myself a feminist, and I was like, oh my gosh, this sounds amazing. Anything to help empower women in business and just women in general. So I was like, let me check this out. And from the moment I stepped into that room, I was like, I have to be involved.
Found my people.
Right? Exactly. So I ended up joining the board, and within 6 months, I was asked to lead the network at the Tampa campus. So I have been one of the leads now for a little over 3 years. And Christy is an amazing board member. Like she said, we have different pillars that focus on different functions to kind of keep the inclusion network alive. And I absolutely love it. It's amazing. It's amazing what we do for our people, but it's also amazing the impact that we make outside of PwC as well.
Nice.
I'm going to guess these pillars you might be referencing have something to do. Or the question is, how does the Women's Inclusion Network support PwC's mission?
Yes. So, it's interesting. PwC has many values and missions, if you will. But when it comes to purpose and inclusion, one of the firm's main strategies is to cultivate this culture of care and belonging so their staff and people feel that they can bring their authentic selves to work each and every day. And that's why the inclusion networks were kind of created, if you will, to help drive that strategy. Specifically, the Women's Inclusion Network at the Tampa campus, one of our main missions is to not only cultivate this culture of care and belonging, but to bring women and their allies together to empower one another, lift each other up. And it really correlates with PwC's overall mission as well. So it's, good for our members, it's good for our staff, but we're also helping the firm drive their strategy as well. But yes, these pillars that I'm referring to within the WIN, we have a pillar that focuses on community service. So the impact that we're making outside of PwC. We have a pillar that focuses on just events. So having meaningful and methodical events that are designed to help drive our mission. We also have several other pillars that helped us just connect and network with one another and expand our mission as well.
Students a lot of times will ask, about culture or bringing their authentic selves. That's a perfect statement that you made. It's tough sometimes to feel if you're going to fit with a company and vice versa. The company also wants to have a good fit with their employees. So that culture, care, it's really important. So
Yeah, and for those that may be wondering what Inclusion Network is at PwC, it's really, so they're composed of and led by our staff and partners, but they're just groups of individuals that share common backgrounds, interests, goals, and again, they're open to everyone. That's why we call them inclusion networks. They're inclusive to everyone, as long as you're an ally of that particular group. So I always tell people, you don't have to be a woman to be part of the Women's Inclusion Network, as long as you support women and support our overall PwC mission.
fantastic. I feel like you ladies are glowing anyway, and I feel that we can gain an understanding of your culture just by you being here and your energy and enthusiasm. So thank you.
So as you talk about the pillars, I get an idea of maybe what some of the benefits are. But if you want to share with us, what are some of the benefits of being a part of the Women's Inclusion Network?
There are so many benefits. So at PwC, we have what we call the PwC Professional Framework, and it's categories to help you become a well-rounded professional. So in the PwC Professional Framework, we have whole leadership, business acumen, relationships, digital acumen, things like that. And being a member of the Women's Inclusion Network and being a board member as well gives you opportunities in all of these spheres to upskill yourself as a PwC professional. So when we're talking about business acumen, what's more driven than making sure that all of our minorities and women particularly have access to all of our upskilling materials and events and networking to be able to really make an impact in our workforce. So I think the fact that it exists is so important. And what we like to offer our members and the firm, we really try to make sure it does relate to the PwC professional framework. So making sure, like Kristen said, we're being very intentional about the events that we host and about what our members are able to get from being members of the network.
Yeah, Jill, I love this because I feel like we've heard this from students and even just other professionals, right? When they think about what is one of the things that they look for in a workplace, it's how can I continue to get that job satisfaction through professional development and opportunities? And this seems like a really great platform, regardless whether it's the Women's Inclusion Network or one of your other inclusion networks, to really provide that space for your employees.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And something that's very cool about our inclusion networks, so PwC is a ginormous firm, worldwide, nationwide, and our inclusion networks are local and national. So with our local inclusion network on the Tampa campus, we're able to connect with all of the women who are members there, but it also provides that bridge to be able to then network nationally with other women of the national inclusion network. So it's like unlimited potential.
Yeah, I feel like, you have that local flavor, but the international flavor or just wherever country. And what an exposure. That's fantastic. And I was thinking along the same lines, I mean, post-COVID, it's just a different world. And a lot of times you feel isolated, alone in your work, whatever it might be, even though you have a team. And so having these different networks to lean into, or just know that you can ask if there's not a resource, hey, I bet they'll come up with something, right? That there's no stopping you. So the support is just real. You can feel it from this discussion. So cool. You may have answered some, but we're just curious individually, how has the Women's Inclusion Network enriched your own professional development?
Yeah, so I'll let Christy, speak about how it's enriched her career. For me personally, I've learned so much over the years leading this inclusion network, but I would say, one thing in particular that's really enriched my professional career is it's taught me to be an inclusive leader. I feel that a lot of businesses think that if they just throw a mixed group of people into a room, that defines inclusivity and diversity. And that's not it at all. It's so much deeper than that. To be an inclusive leader really assures that your team members feel valued and that they belong and, they're respected. And hopefully in turn, that'll help each team member feel more confident and inspired. Inclusive leadership has been directly linked to high performing teams. So it's not just good for the person, but it's good for the company. And I'm just so thankful and grateful that I've been able to learn over the years what it's truly like to be an inclusive leader. It's helped me lead the Inclusion Network, but it's also helped me lead my team in my day-to-day role.
That was so profound.
Thank
Our
you.
fearless leader, Kristen Blake. I guess for me, oh my gosh, how has it not benefited me? There are so many ways, whether it's, being able to see amazing women at work, being able to network with other amazing women in our board and our members, really just getting that insight into other spheres of the firm. PwC is huge, and I only have direct experience, the 2 roles that I've held there as an executive assistant and now as a trainer. So being able to see what other people do in their day-to-day and gain that insight, and just, technical skills too. I've been able to lead projects, manage budgets on our board, work with people outside of PwC, which is really nice, getting that experience and that additional networking too. It just has opened up so many doors. Being able to do a podcast, who would have thought? So it's been an amazing experience.
I feel like confidence to even take on some roles that you may have done in your journey. Yeah. Okay.
Well, and I also get to see just the continuing of the professional development, right? So as you talk about like budgets, and I think it's a good way to develop those skills. So we were talking about this a little bit earlier today, and you were sharing some of the events, but can you tell our listeners a little bit about the events that you do at PwC with Women's Inclusion Network?
Yes, so we host all different kinds of events and activities, anywhere from social events to educational events, but we also host fundraisers for nonprofit organizations in the local Tampa Bay area. We also advertise volunteer opportunities, not just for nonprofit organizations, but any of our, other relationships that we have with external companies in the Tampa Bay area. I would say when it comes to our social events, it really ranges. Sometimes we'll just have, after work happy hours. So our members have the opportunity to network with one another and get to know one another, meet someone new, build a new, friendship at work. But then when it comes to big observances, for instance, we're hosting a big Women's History Month celebration next week, open to the entire Tampa campus, where we'll have food and drinks and games and, chance for our staff to win some PwC swag. So it really ranges. And then when it comes to educational events, again, we have a nice range of different topics that we host. So for instance, a couple months ago, we have an internal guest speaker talk to us about some of the technology that the firm is rolling out that's new. We've also had external speakers come and talk about different topics to help you enhance your professional career. But we also have or educational events, that are more meaningful and deep. So, for instance, we have what we call candid conversations. And, a couple years back when Roe versus Wade was overturned, a lot of people were affected, both men and women. And we wanted to have, some kind of protected time for our staff to voice their, whether it be concerns or opinions. So we had a couple of candid conversations. So it's not just superficial, just social or educational. We really try to drive those meaningful connections as well.
That's great.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to. I mean, how can you not be stressed when things happen?
Yeah.
Court rulings, things are overturned, and the whole country's talking about it. How do you not? How does that not impact your work?
Absolutely.
And when you're spending that time. So if you have a space to share, just get it off your chest, and then move about so that you realize, hey, again, I'm not alone. Other people are concerned, anxious, and it made me feel like you even are part of a solution of some kind, at least.
Absolutely. And, I think a lot of companies or businesses, those big topics, they feel taboo. So, they just try to avoid them. And that's not what we're here to do. We're not also here to, start a rift and, divide our population. But, let's acknowledge what's going on in the world outside of this company. Right. It affects us in many different ways. And
it impacts your clients too that are interacting with you. And I mean, whether it's in the U.S., different parts of the U.S. and then internationally.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with all of these events, I don't want to leave our students out because we've also been partnering and hosting some events. You ladies have been on campus as part of the Women's Inclusion Network, Tampa, St. Pete. We've held virtual events for Sarasota as well to join in. And how students that are looking to connect, I know it's not necessarily your areas, but, students are probably, I would think, oh, this sounds like a great place. I want to maybe think about how would you recommend, they connect with you or PwC?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for bringing this up. So we have recruiters that go to campuses and have recruiting events, some of which are true recruiting events, some of which might be a particular session geared towards a particular topic that students might be interested in. We actually did one for University of Central Florida in Orlando, and that was an amazing event. So you have those, but then also, like you mentioned, our Tampa Campus Women's Inclusion Network, we actually come to campus as well. And we have what we call our Setting Up for Success sessions, which focus on different topics that help students prepare to go into the workforce. So we were actually here just last week at the St. Pete campus, and we had a session called Risky Business. So talking about, what sort of fears or risks might be, for you as the individual, whether you take them as a student or in the workplace, but how to reframe those fears and risks and really channel that energy into something more productive and positive. But in the past, we've had sessions that focus on networking. We've had sessions that focus on, building your confidence. And again, whether you're still a student or in the workplace, confidence is, such a big factor when it comes to, anything in your life. And
I feel like you can read confidence as soon as someone walks into a room, especially if it's an interview or just when you're meeting someone too and you shake hands. Yeah. You feel it. Anyway, sorry.
Yes. No, it's okay. You hit the nail on the head. So I feel like there are two really main different avenues. Students are looking to connect with us, or really anybody from PwC. I would say definitely keep an eye out for those recruiting events and really capitalize on them when recruiters are here on campus, because they also can give you different resources for how you can get more involved, whether it's, just looking to really get to know some of our staff, or whether you're trying to apply for an internship. They can guide you and point you in the right direction. But then also, like I said, attending some of our sessions, you can connect with us. Both Christy and I are on LinkedIn as well. So if anybody's interested in connecting with us, you can absolutely find our LinkedIn profiles, and, we can help guide you in whatever direction you need.
I think it's nice. I just think back when I was in college and I was scared. I think about the risk part. I was scared to go to events. You don't necessarily want to go alone, but also, what are you going to do? What's going to happen, right? And the unknown. But knowing you're here on our campus frequently. So to me, it makes like, hey, we're here. We're people too. We've been in your shoes. We've had to make this journey. So come talk to us. Just have a conversation. Open the door. Start it. No pressure. Not like it is a recruiting event where, you know what I mean? They might feel like, oh, I have to bring my resume. I need to be ready with my pitch, all that. No, just come, sit down, talk. Have some conversations, which is what we originally kind of classified them as, candid conversations, like what you brought up. So
no, that's exactly
we
what
just appreciate you being on campus and hosting those types of events. So
absolutely.
As we talk about students, one of the things I think Jill and I often get asked with our students is a curiosity around company culture. And one of the things we noticed on the PwC website is this idea of investing in our people. And so we were curious what that means to each of you.
So just that word investment, what I think of are time and resources. And I feel like PwC gives us so much time and so many resources to be able to really bring our full selves to work. There is such a emphasis on whole well-being, whether it's physical well-being, mental well-being, spiritual well-being. PwC offers us so many benefits and resources. One of the really great ones that we have is the Calm app. We get negotiated prices and even free apps.
Yeah, nice. I know. I always look at that on. Anyway, yes.
It's so nice. We get bedtime stories, meditations. Really, it's just an amazing way to kind of wind down, especially if it's been a busy day. At PwC, we do work hard, so it's nice that they offer us the abilities and resources and tools to be able to disconnect from work, wind down, be able to have that work-life balance or separation, if you will, so that we can bring our full selves not only to work, but back home with us too. We also get a lot of dedicated time to be able to put our skills back into society. It's actually called Skills for Society hours. We get 40 hours every year to be able to dedicate that time to volunteering or any other kind of community service efforts. So that's on top of our holiday time and vacation time. We get those 40 Skills for Society hours so that we're able to prioritize what we do with our time to give back.
Wow.
That's amazing.
It is. It is.
It's a really unique benefit that we get.
Yeah.
I think this is a great question to follow. I mean, all of this to me is what sets PwC apart, but that is kind of our question. Everybody looks at top accounting firms in the country. What do you think sets PwC apart?
Yeah.
If you can, I know, is there just one really, but like this entire podcast?
Yeah, so I can only speak from my experience, but I would have to say, and I know it's so cliche, but the people and the culture at PwC, we have such a culture of belonging and of bringing people up with you. With our inclusion networks, that's a shining star example of this. There are spaces that are made consciously just to make sure that people have somewhere to go and have somewhere to turn to not go it alone. So you always know there's someone there on your side, someone who has similar experiences, and you're able to grow together. And our culture is so unique in that way that it really just feels so supportive from every angle. At every step of your journey, there are ways that you are able to find mentors, whether you're looking for a mentor or a sponsor, some people call them advocates. People are always so happy to turn around and help lead the way, and then also guide you to do the same for people who are following in your footsteps. We just have such an amazing, I keep saying the word culture, but it's really what it is at heart. And it is very, you can tell there was thought behind it. It's not accidental.
Yeah.
It starts at the top with our leadership. Right now, we have amazing leaders, and it just kind of trickles down in such a beautiful way. One of the other really great things at PwC is that there's just this vibe of infinite knowledge and infinite learning. There are so many resources made available to us to further our training. So even though you might be in a certain role, you're not locked into that. And PwC is very open and accepting of you learning new skills, and maybe you leave the firm, and that's okay because the dedication is to making you a better person all around and utilizing the resources that we have available to do that.
She said it perfectly. I couldn't have said it better. I have nothing to add. Yeah.
It's true, though. I have to say, I mean, our chancellor sets the tone here on campus, our dean within the MUMA College of Business and the Kate Tiedemann School of Business and Finance, allowing us this platform even to share, happenings, updates, and really try to reach students and let them know what resources are out there and the support and community they have as a USF student, and then as they graduate and move forward. What are you going to say?
No, I think that's amazing. And like she said, our leadership team, it trickles down from the top. And
Totally.
that's, you have to lead by example.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what our leadership does. And our people, follow suit. So.
And I just want to say it's very much felt, right, for the external people who get the opportunity to work with the Women's Inclusion Network. Chrissy, as you're talking, I feel the intentionality, right? Everything from your mission to how you embody your mission as people, as a part of the PwC culture. So
Yeah.
it's just so you guys know, it's very much felt.
Oh, thank you.
One of the things we were talking about is often people associate PwC with accounting. And so we're curious, what are other paths that are available at PwC that might not necessarily be the first thing that comes to mind?
Sure. And I'm giggling over here because every time I tell people I work at PwC, their first inclination is, "Oh, you do tax or audit work?" I'm like, "No, not at all."
That's why I had to ask you, what
Yeah.
do you do? What do you do?
Yes. So technically PwC, and I think most of the big four nowadays, they refer to themselves as a professional services firm because we do so many other things besides just tax and accounting work. I would say I can't speak for the other big four, but for PwC in particular, we hire in two different ways. We have entry-level hires and we have experience-level hires. When you're an entry-level hire, that really implies that, you probably just graduated from school. You may not have a lot of work experience under your belt. Maybe you did an internship, but, that's about it. So really all you have to show is what you did as a student in school and the degree that you earned. And, unless you're specifically going into finance, so unless you want to do tax or accounting work, you should probably have a degree that's in that area. But if you're looking to go into human resources or data analytics or IT or technology or even, some of the other different administrative fields, yes, does your major probably set the tone when you're an entry-level hire? Absolutely. But for those that are experience-level hires that have been in the workforce, that do have work experience under their belt, I would say, again, unless you're going into finance, your degree doesn't really matter. And I feel like Christy and I are perfect examples of that. I work in human capital, which is a branch of human resources. And my degree was in art history.
Right.
Now, granted, when I started at PwC, I had already been in the workforce for 7 years. So I had experiences and examples to give on why I'd be a good fit for that role, even though my degree had nothing to do with human resources. Same thing for Christy. Christy already had some work experience by the time she made the switch to PwC. And, her degree wasn't really that big of a concern because she was able to elaborate while she might be a good fit for the role that she went for. So, I always like to tell students it depends. I don't want to say necessarily that the degree doesn't matter because it might.
It
doesn't
matters
mean
for all you
everything.
accounting students.
Yes, exactly.
I'm sorry,
exactly.
accounting and finance,
Yes.
marketing.
But, to answer your question, Ashley, there are so many different other avenues and so many different things that, you could kind of dip your toes in aside from just accounting, tax, or advisory work. All those other roles, we consider them back office or what we call business services because you don't deal with clients directly. But just like any other company, you have to have those to have a well-oiled machine.
And have those well-rounded discussions and people from all walks. So
Absolutely.
I felt like I was keying in on what you were talking about, having experienced those transferable skills.
Yes.
And that's something that we try to work with our students. And that's why we're saying do an internship, work part-time, or you're already working full-time, whatever it might be. These experiences that you're gaining while you're also finishing your education are so important and valuable that will set you apart as you move forward, understanding your own value and worth.
Yep.
In that.
Well, and what I was going to say is what I think is really important is there's two really types of path, right? You can be the accounting or finance student who knows clearly that you want to go this path and you want to go work at a big four like PwC, or you can have a non-traditional path where you're relying on those transferable skills where you say, hey, I don't have that finance experience, but I want to go work at a firm like this. And I want to take the skills that I've learned from a law firm or from wherever else and apply those to do similar related work.
Yeah. We have a lot of psych and crim majors.
Yeah.
So, yes.
It's a good double
See?
major.
Yes, it is. And it makes you a great candidate for
Yeah.
a variety of different areas. Anyway.
No, and I was just going to say, so many times too, do we have people that come into the firm and maybe they have their heart set out to, be that accountant or be an auditor. And after a couple of years, their passions change, right?
Yeah.
You grow and develop and your goals change and your interests change. I actually work with an individual. She started out as an accountant, and after about 2 years at the firm, she grew to love the purpose and inclusion strategy at the firm. And now she does nothing with accounting and she works on the P&I team. And so, you just never know, where you might go, and that's okay.
And a follow-up we had with this was, what would you say makes a student a good candidate for PwC?
Yeah. So just off the top of my head, because I feel like there's so many different qualities and skill sets and behaviors that you can bring to the table that make you a good candidate. But some that come to mind right out the gate are being agile and being open-minded to change. At PwC, we move a mile a minute. And, a lot of people think they're okay with rapid change, but you learn very quickly if you can adapt to that or not. So I'd say agility. I would also say, attention to detail, being organized, being a self-starter. Of course, like Christine mentioned, we set our people up for success. So we have a lot of different resources, as you start out the firm. Or maybe you are a veteran to the firm, but starting in a new role. However, I love the saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You do have to rely on yourself, right, to make things happen to a certain extent. So being that self-starter and, just making sure that you're constantly pushing yourself to upskill yourself. And then last but not least, I would say being solution-oriented. And being able to be come to the table with a global mindset. And what I mean by that is, we are a global company and you never know who you might be working with. Regardless, though, of whether they're based in the U.S. or not, everybody's different. They think differently, learn differently, interpret things differently, and you need to be open to other people's suggestions, recommendations, thoughts, and insights, whether you agree with them or not. And, it really helps to create this team environment at PwC.
Yeah, I think so many of our classes, this is where the students sometimes struggle in the sense of they have to do group work. And they always, I get it too. I want to do it myself, because I know I'll do it right and I'll get it done quickly, right? And then when you work on a team, you have to delegate. Everybody needs to contribute. You know what happens. Some people do, some don't. There's timelines, all that. But also bringing in different perspectives, different ways of work. And I mean, I have to fight my own biases and structure that I've set up. And so, you know, that's why we do these things in the classroom to simulate what you're going to have to experience, but at the same time, with a lot more freedom and range and being a self-starter. But just that attention to detail is something that everybody loves to say. And I really, we live in this day where it's just like click, 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 hurry, hurry, do things. I just looked at somebody submitting a survey I did, and it took them 13 seconds. And there are 13 questions. I was like, how did they complete it that quickly? And there are errors. There are things missing. And it sets you apart. And to me, attention to detail is more than just checking the boxes, making sure your resume, all the dates are lined up on the right, justified, but it's taking pride in your work and representing yourself in the best light too, to show and exemplify that you represent these types of things. Respect yourself. That way you show you respect others. I don't know.
It's recognizing
I want to get on a
that,
pedestal.
like, you have your brand and everything that you do is part of your brand, and it helps people to identify whether you have that pride in your work or you don't. So really taking that time to slow down, think about it, make it something that you want to put your name on, you want other people to see your name on, and then delivering it.
Thank you. Taking the time, slow down, take a little breath.
I always tell my team, I would much rather you take the extra 5 to 10 minutes, maybe even 20, 30 minutes, and just think about what you're doing and, you know, make sure you're delivering that high quality work. To me, it's quality over quantity. I don't care if you're working fast or getting your, you know, hitting your deliverables, because if you give me something that's done incorrectly, it voids all, you know, the fastness that you put into it. It doesn't matter anymore.
In the long run, it takes you longer, right? Because you're going back to
square one.
I'm just thinking, you know, take 5 seconds to reread your email before you send it. Just silly things, but it really does make a difference.
100%. So we've pretty much come to our time, and I just have to say, this has been so great having the both of you here with us today. You know, one of the things we really like to focus on is we talk about leadership, we talk about professional development. And so our question for you both is, as you look back at your professional career and your journey, what are some resources, whether that's mentorship or literature or whatever that might be, resources that have been helpful to you as you have continued your professional journey?
Do you want to go first?
Sure. So when I think about this question, there are internal and external factors to that development. So internally, you know, you want to lead with curiosity, always be looking to learn something new, and then maybe turn around and teach it to someone else. Be intentional about what you're doing, about who you're networking with. Make sure that you have your brand in mind all the time. And then externally, going back to that networking, make sure you're finding people who can help mentor you and advocate for you. Make sure that, you know, the work that you're delivering makes people want to work with you more. The better work that you can deliver, the more people are going to come to you with those stretch opportunities to help you advance your career and give you those new skills that you might be looking for. Looking for people who are open to giving feedback, and hearing feedback is amazing. I always ask for feedback whenever I wrap up a project, and that has helped me so much. Being open to that feedback in the first place. Sometimes it is hard to hear, but just know that everyone's coming to you with that positive intent, and they have your growth in mind.
For me, I would say, you know, my number one resource, like Chrissy said, there are numerous resources, but I would say my number one throughout the years, and this is not just my time at PwC, but outside of PwC, is having that mentor or mentors, not just to ask questions or help guide you through your career journey, but to really use as a sounding board. There are going to be so many times throughout your career where you might have some tough decisions to make, and you might be tempted to, ask a lot of people, but you need just one trusted individual that, maybe is seasoned in their career or have already gone through these experiences. And for me personally, I've had a couple mentors over the years that, have really helped mold me into the professional that I am now, but have helped me get through those tough times. So I would say, doesn't matter if you're just starting out in your career or if you've been, in the workforce for 30 years, you should always have someone that can advocate for you and someone that can help guide you.
It's a great way to wrap. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Christy, for joining us from PwC, the Women's Inclusion Network. Make sure you follow us, Getting Down to Business, YouTube, Apple, Spotify. See you next time.
Thanks. Thank you.